Yay!
All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. Bonus, I get to have Rachel in my house. So we didn't have to do double Zoom, but so excited and grateful for her being willing to come on and share her knowledge with us. And I guess I'm in a place where I'm ready to get vulnerable and make some changes. So I think both of us want to go live on our Instagram. So we're going to pop the live on as well. And that way, if anybody wants to pop in and see it from there, they totally can.
Oh, if you do Instagram, I'll do Facebook.
Sure, that would be great. So hopefully you guys are excited for a new season with it being fall and a new month. Some of you just came off of the August challenge that I did, just trying to create some daily habits of healthy taking vitamins. We talked about stress management. We talked about communication and connection and movement. And so as we're going into a new season, I don't know about you guys, but I always feel like it's time to like declutter and detox. And so I'm really excited about the timing of this. I was having a conversation with Rachel. I actually met her in a master coaching mentorship that I did earlier this year, and we became good friends, and we're both health coaches. Let's use on those bottles. And the thing that I love about Rachel is she does a very different coaching than I do myself. So I focus a lot on the movement, the nutrition aspect, macros, and creating daily habits and daily disciplines to really change your lifestyle. The thing that I love about Rachel is she deals with the harder piece, I think, and that's the stuff up here. So the mind games that we play on in ourselves, and just when I was having a conversation with her recently, we were talking about food and food codependency. And she was asking all the right questions. And I was like raising my hand, yep, that's me. Yep, that's me. Oh no. And so I wanted to bring her on today, mostly to educate you guys. And as we've talked more and more about this, we feel like this is something that we're not the only ones that have struggled with and struggle with today. And so I'm going to kind of turn the time over to her just to have her explain what codependency is initially. And then we're going to do a little bit of live coaching. And at the end of this, we're going to talk about a detox cleanse that we're going to be doing for 30 days. And if it interests you, you feel like this is something that's coming up in your life and you're ready to break free from it, we'd love for you to join us. And so that's kind of what we're going to be chatting about for the next 30 minutes or so.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to be here with you guys. Emotions, can I just pivot your phone so that we're both on the screen so much? Okay. So emotions are something I'm really passionate about. I've been a registered nurse for over 16 years. And in that field of work, it's very emotionally stressful for the nurse, but it's also emotionally stressful for the patient. And I spent a lot of years monitoring hearts, working with people that had heart surgeries, bypasses, stents, all sorts of different heart things. And what's interesting about the heart itself, your physical heart, everything behind it, so your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, your digestion, all your circulation starts in your heart. Even your brain health is in your heart. And when we are emotionally clogged, your physical heart will get physically clogged, causing a heart attack, causing congestive heart failure because you're emotionally clogged. And then as I progressed through my career, I got educated in food and nutrition and fitness and emotional wellness. And then recently I was introduced to the concept of codependency through awareness of my own stuff. And we look at food, and all of us have some sort of dependence on food because we have to live. Without food, we would die. The crazy thing is about food is it's this love-hate friendship. You ever had that friendship where you gave all you could to this friend and they said they seemed to never return it back to you? Or you were the friend that people were trying to serve you and help you, and you were like, nope, 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 push away, push away, push away. How often do we do that with food? we look at food as, okay, let's back up a little bit. Let me define codependency, because not everybody knows what codependency is. Codependency is when you are depending on something or someone outside of you to fix your problems. We see this a lot in relationships with spouses or partners, friendships with children. Sometimes parents are codependent on children, expecting the children to soothe the parent. Well, that's not the child's job. The child's job is to learn from the parent. And this is something that we've learned way, 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 way back in childhood. And now it's playing out in adulthood. And it's not a very healthy pattern. I don't think any of us on this, if you're on live, you're on the Zoom, I don't think any of us want to pass this on to our children. I don't.
No.
I don't. I want my children to be independent, be able to follow their own intuition, their own hunger and fullness cues. And that's what I want for my children. I don't want to teach them to turn to a substance to help to soothe them. You know, we want to emotionally mature ourselves and be independent of that. Now, when we see this in food codependence, is when, like when we're feeling anxious or we're feeling bored or we're anticipating something. Like, I don't know about you, but the 4 o'clock hour, I'm anticipating making dinner and eating dinner. So I eat like a meal, or I have a snack to tide myself over, but then I'm still hungry because I'm anticipating. So rather than like going and doing something else, going for a walk, doing other things, I snack.
Been there.
So,
Done
or let's say you're worried about one of your kids, or you're having contention in your relationship with your spouse, or you're growing and developing and becoming who you want to be, and spouse is like, or partner, whatever your relationship looks like with a significant other, and they're like, I don't even know who you are anymore. And it creates this interesting contention. And because food is something that we were taught as small children and babies, that food is to comfort me, that's what we often turn to. So what we're here to teach you, and what we want to teach you and empower you with during the 30-day cleanse that we'll talk about at the end, is lifestyle habits to help us overcome this addiction with food codependence, because it just goes round and round and round and round. And we want to see food, and we want you to see food as our friend, and develop a harmonious friendship where it's supportive, where food now is our friend. It nourishes our body. This is the whole purpose of food. The whole purpose of food is one, is to be pleasurable and fun, and it's to nourish our body. So often we use even healthier foods, and then we beat ourselves up for eating too much of it. And how many times have you gone out to eat, and maybe you're socially eating because now you're distracted and you overeat, and then you beat yourself up. That was totally off plan. I can't believe I did this. And now your brain perceives food as the bad guy. So then every single time you eat that food, or any kind of food, your brain perceives it as something bad for you, even if it's something really nourishing for you, like carrots or salad or chicken. And so then your digestion perceives it as something bad, and then we get gas and bloating and constipation and all these other things. And so what we want to do and to empower you with is that food is our friend. I feel like we're in like Finding Nemo when the sharks are like, food is friend, or fish are friends, not food. Anyway, it's one of my favorite lines in that whole movie. So we want to teach you, empower you, that you are not alone in this. Codependency is an addiction. It's because there's something that we are getting, or the person that has that pattern gets something from it. It's like a drug. And that's why it's so hard to break. Each of us has a food. Maybe you can type it wherever you're at live. on the Zoom, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have all the things covered. Maybe you could type in the chat when you are feeling nervous. I'm just gonna adjust her. Look at my hands. I talk with my hands. So when you're feeling nervous, you're feeling bored, maybe you're celebrating, what are some of the foods that you turn to? What are some of the foods that you turn to?
So one of the things that, like, coming from a different perspective as a nutrition coach, is I know what foods are healthy for me. And so I actually do crave healthy things. But like you said, you can overeat healthy things. So I will, mostly my go-to is protein. So like I'll just reach for, some shaved turkey out of the fridge, or I'll have a protein shake, or I'll have a protein bar, but when overconsumed, it's not supporting the goals. And so then I do feel guilty, even though it wasn't the chocolate, or it wasn't the ice cream, or it wasn't those things. I know that I overconsumed, and then I don't feel well. And so it doesn't always have to be the chocolate, but we've got some coming in: ice cream, potato chips.
Oh, potato chips.
Yes, that crunch.
Yes. Salty crunch. Yes, yes. Facebook has a delay. Ice cream. Ice cream is a big one. Potato chips. Those are the salty crunches. Do you ever, I used to do popcorn with like hot tamales. Oh, yeah. And then you'd have like the spicy, the hot, the sweet, and the salty, and the crunch. And it hits like all these different like sensory experiences. Yeah. And it's just crazy. And the other thing that's interesting too is if you're finding yourself in this tendency, we also have some chemical releases in our brain called dopamine. Anytime this happens, we have a dopamine release. And popcorn and M&Ms, says Christy. So good. So, and we don't want to villainize food. Like we don't, part of the problem that happens too is we categorize it into good and bad foods. And I had a nutritionist once, one of our daughters, we discovered an eating disorder. And it was because we hired a nutritionist for her. And the nutritionist said, I encourage you in your home to not categorize foods as good or bad. Food is just food. Right. And talk about how challenging and hard that was, because so many of us are taught, don't eat this, this is bad, right? Don't eat this, this is bad, eat this and this and this. And year. What if we did that? And instead of making it a short-term thing, like I'm going to do this short-term, like a Whole30 or a 75 hard, like just seems ridiculous. So what if we could teach you how to create lifestyle habits, starting with food, something we all need. And we learn to have compassion for those moments when we go off the rails or we go off plan, and we're like, and we don't have to start over. You just start again and again, because you're learning new habits and new ways of looking at food and having compassion for yourself and grace and recognizing you are human and you are fallible. So through this, a lot of codependency too, when we look at food codependency, is it comes from too much restriction. And because we weren't disciplined in the restriction, now there's something wrong with us.
And talk about that. Yeah, and that's exactly what I discovered. So my first bodybuilding competition was a year ago in April. And going into it, the prep was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I think because the reason that I was so successful in my first prep was because I enjoyed the structure. I enjoyed the guidance, the routine. It was something new and exciting and shiny, right? I had a date in mind, so I was chasing that specific date. Well, within that amount of time, within my 6 months of prep, and I'm getting very vulnerable with you guys, just sharing some things that happened. We had several family deaths. We lost one of our nephews to suicide. We lost one to a motorbike accident. My husband's sister died from COVID. And this is all within about a 4-month time period. And within that time, I didn't realize that I was just restricting myself and compressing a lot of emotions. And then about a month before my show, my parents told me they were getting divorced. And so it was like I just kept getting hit, but I had this routine in place. I had my food meal prepped. I knew what I was eating. I was going to the gym every day. So I was taking care of myself physically, right? I was feeling properly, and I was exercising, and I made it a priority to make sure that my kids were at their activities and the homework was being done and those things. But I definitely wasn't meeting my own emotional needs because I was compressing them. Therefore, I wasn't meeting my kids' emotional needs. And there's been some side effects from that as well. And then coming out of that show, I didn't maintain those healthy habits because I was in restriction. And so what did I do? I gained 30 pounds coming out of that show. And then I was mad at myself. I was so frustrated and so confused at how I could let myself get to this place. And so then what did I do? I committed to do another show to try and lose the weight again. And so I did a show in April. I went to USA's in July. And then coming out of this last show again, I didn't reverse properly. And it's because I'm addicted to food. I was so proud of myself thinking that I had avoided the codependency to relationships, watching an unhealthy relationship with my parents. I watched my mom and my aunts and my grandma and generations beyond have codependency. And I was proud of myself for not having that in my own marriage. But what did I do? I turned to food. And so as I was talking to Rachel and she was asking all the right questions, and I was like, yep. I realized that I know that there's more out there. There's more people out there that are struggling with the same thing. And the first step is awareness. Once you're aware, I already feel different. Now that I'm aware, I'm able to ask myself different questions. And I'm able to talk myself through circumstances because I'm now aware. And so Rachel's going to kind of drill in, and I'm sure a lot of you will be able to relate to some of the questions that she's going to ask. And I want to get vulnerable because I know that there's so many others out there that need support in this area. And so one of the things that, I guess ask me some of the questions that you asked that day. I can't recall exactly what they were.
I remember.
You might be codependent to food if what? Like, what are some of the signs and symptoms of food codependency?
Let's come back to that. I want to talk about emotional self-care and emotional awareness. So often, this will lead us right into that. When we are, so like we look at food codependency, it's a little bit unique because we turn to food to soothe ourselves emotionally. And it's because we are using food to stuff our emotions. So think about, hopefully this is a good analogy, like when you stuff a turkey and you're shoving things in to pack it in, that's what happens when we stuff our emotions with food. We're trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Eventually that beach ball is going to blow up. It's going to come pushing up out of the water. It either comes up as an emotional outburst in like crying, which is good. Like emotions are good. We're not going to villainize emotions. But maybe it's an anger outburst. Like I'm sure you had some of those during that incredibly stressful time. And it's a coping mechanism. Like we're coping under stress in the only way we know. So I want to point out that nothing's gone wrong. Like you haven't done anything wrong if this is something that you do. And so as you try to push that beach ball down with food, either you're going to have emotional explosions or you're going to have an internal explosion. Maybe you're going to develop an autoimmune disease, heart disease, diabetes, digestive problems, things like arthritis and pain. They're all inflammatory conditions because of an emotional inflammatory condition. So we have to work on the physical and the emotional. So when you were going through that and when you started to have this recognition, like what were some of the like experiences you were having?
Since my show, like it's been so interesting. And I told you this, like my last show, I gained 30 pounds. And when I hit that 30-pound mark, that was like, that's when the light bulb went off. And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm like, okay, we're not doing this. And it was like, I was ready to get back into discipline. And it started as discipline in the sense that I wanted to take care of myself. I didn't feel good. I wasn't fitting my clothes. And so I knew that for self-care purposes that I wanted to do better. And I knew that, just getting back, reducing my portion sizes was going to help me to see some progress. I was still continuing to work out and those things. But then eventually it turned into restriction. And so I went from self-care, discipline, into restriction because I made the decision, the habits were in place, but I wasn't taking control of the emotional piece. And so when the emotions would come up, I would just, I would get busier. I would say yes to more. I would just stay busy so that I didn't have to think and feel and deal with the emotions. And so coming out of this last show, I've chosen to feel for the first time. And there's been certain conversations from childhood that happened and certain things that I'm now realizing, okay, that's why I am the way I am. And it's not a bad thing. It helps me to understand, but it's been questioning and having coaches help me and processing. So I don't know, there's that fine line between discipline and restriction.
And I like that you point that out. How many times have we done this? Like we lose weight and then we notice ourselves that weight creeping back on and they're like, oh, I know what to do. I'll just restrict it. I'll make it tighter. It never works. In fact, it's going to blow up in our face because it's just like when you hold that beach ball, you can only hold that tight for so long before it blows up in your face and the same behaviors come back. We're going to binge and then we're going to abuse ourselves. And codependency is a form of abuse. And this is abuse that nobody does outside of us, but us within ourselves. And we do it with food, to food. And then the brain is like, no matter what you eat, it's not right. So over here on Zoom, I'm going to ask you some more questions. So thanks, Nina. Nina says, you guys are rocking it. Thank you for being authentic and vulnerable. You're welcome. We're really passionate about this. Like this awareness for the both of us was just like, holy cow. Like the whole world needs this awareness. How many of us during COVID, during the pandemic shutdown and all of that crazy coped with food? How many of us lost or gained weight during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Look at how high the divorce rate is now because of all of this. It's called out all of our secrets.
So Jacqueline, I think it's a great, like, she says, I feel like I'm in this right now. I've decided to be disciplined, but now I feel it turning into restriction. So how do I stay in self-discipline?
That is such a good question.
Yep.
You talked about this just the other day.
Yeah.
The difference between discipline and restriction. And discipline is similar to boundaries. So discipline is setting some limits for yourself, but not letting yourself go too far into restriction. Restriction means I'm only eating these things and I can't have those things because those things are in the bad category. What if some of those are some of your favorite foods? And what if you just gave yourself permission to just eat the food? As a healthcare professional, I have a theory that the stress and the energy that it takes to avoid the food is more damaging than just eating the food itself. And the more you avoid it, the more you want it. And then when you finally get it, the more you're going to have.
Yeah, for sure. So I think for me, reverting, like bouncing back between restriction and discipline is ultimately the why behind the two. So when you are living in a place of self-discipline, you're choosing to do those things as a form of self-care. Like she talked about boundaries. Boundaries are a form of love, right? Mm-hmm. We set boundaries for our kids and for ourselves for love. But when you find yourself restricting because you feel like it's bad or it's the thoughts, it ultimately comes down to the thoughts that you create when you're in self-discipline versus restriction. Mm-hmm. And restriction doesn't come from self-care.
Right. And the thoughts you have create the experience. So if the thoughts that are creating the experience in restriction might sound like, I'm only going to eat these things, or I can't have that because I'm going to only eat what's on this plan I created for myself. And then we use sometimes, like I used to do this, I used to use a calorie, called macro trackers now, but back in the day, they're called calorie trackers. And I was in such strict restriction while training for a half marathon. I was actually gaining weight and I lost my period. And it took me years. So now I can't use a calorie tracker. Yeah. It's a bad place for me.
So the talk around the food is so important. Mm-hmm. And you getting to, you choose how you're going to fuel your body. And so that's what I've had to change for me personally is I get to eat this. I choose to eat this. You turn it into a good thing and a positive thing. And through that, you're able to change the story, right? We all live in stories. Our life is a pattern and we continue to repeat the pattern until we have something that stops us. And that's one thing that we really want to talk about in our 30 days is, what did you call it? It's
a pattern interrupt.
Yes, a pattern interrupt.
Yes.
So
pattern interrupt. So you brought up a good point here. As you've created this awareness of your own codependency addiction with food and creating your own pattern interrupts, how do you know when to stop that? Like when you notice, like even if you're using like your like you brought up the shredded turkey in the fridge, how do you know? Because you have to know a limit, like, and that creates that awareness. Like, how do you know what that is, and what's the pattern interrupt you've created for yourself?
So my pattern interrupt that I've been using recently is how is this going to make me feel, or is this going to help me achieve my result? And just by just stopping and asking myself a question has been really powerful. And so you have to determine what your goals are and why you've set those goals for yourself and ultimately what the outcome is that you're looking for. And just by questioning ourselves, we can learn a lot. And that's why journaling is so important too. And we want that a part of the 30 days because it takes 21 days to change habits. And so in this 30 days, we will be journaling and you're going to discover what is coming up for you and what is guiding you and leading you to certain things and ultimately taking you away. Like I've been to the point where I've had to reassess like a family event or something and realize you spent so much time in the kitchen that you missed out on this. Like bringing that awareness to myself in how like my habits around food have taken me away from things, how they've prevented me from making connections, and it's not to shame myself. It's to help me to be aware of what my habits have been so that I can change them in the future.
So cool. What has been the most helpful as you work through the emotions of like the ripple effect that addiction has had? Because it's like you said, you mentioned, let me just kind of clarify, because you mentioned it's affected your relationship with your kids and the relationship with yourself, like that self-trust.
Yeah.
And there's emotions that are connected to that, probably like things like guilt and shame. What has helped you to overcome that and repair that within yourself?
So I've had to learn to forgive myself and give myself a lot of grace. Like, now that I am aware of what I've done in the past, just making that commitment to myself to move forward different and not do it again. And what I tell my clients all the time is you're never failing, you're always learning. And every day is a new day. What can we build off of from our past experiences and yesterday to just make today better? So it was just coming to the realization, okay, you're not broken, you are fixable, like you can move forward doing better. And so just learning from the past, I think, and just knowing how it made me feel, recognizing the outcome of the decisions, and then choosing to move forward different.
What kind of judgments against yourself did you have as you've gone through this forgiveness process?
The judgments were all the things. I mean, I was disappointed for one, I'm supposed to be, the perfect model, right? A lot of you just saw me on stage in July. And so there's a lot of shame and guilt around that, like teaching classes and not being, at my peak performance. And then, yeah, like you said, that just that frustration, like anger coming up and the little triggers and things. And so as I've just taken time to evaluate and reassess and recognize, I feel like I'm honestly mentally healthier than I ever have been around it. And I know I have a lot of work to do. Like, we're still clearing a lot going through this, but awareness has created so much change, just that little tiny piece.
That's so cool. How has this process helped you in your relationships, like with yourself, but your kids and in marriage and setting some healthy boundaries?
What I'm discovering is, and I've known this all along, I think we've all heard that you can only love others to the capacity that you love yourself. And I feel like, honestly, me being more patient, like, it makes me emotional. Me being more patient with myself and loving myself more has helped me to be more patient with my kids and my spouse and others, other relationships in my life. I'll be vulnerable in saying that I've got a 16-year-old that has vaped, and we have been working very hard to get him away from that. And we were so proud of him last night when he had a clean test. And so I am grateful that I have experienced this codependency to food, because it has allowed me to be less judgmental to him and know that addiction's real, that it's hard, and that with the right care and help that you can change. So just, I don't know, I guess loving myself and being able to forgive myself has allowed me to have that same connection with my kids.
Yeah, so what I hear you saying is going through this and being willing to be vulnerable with yourself has allowed you to have more compassion for those around you.
Oh, yeah.
As they work through their own stuff. Because each one of us has addiction somewhere. So each one of us either knows someone or experiences it somewhere, some way, shape, or form. And as we get vulnerable with ourselves and learn to forgive ourselves and have compassion, we are more compassionate and have greater capacity to love those around us. And we really serve with that Christ-like love that ability to see everybody as an equal, that nobody else is above anybody. We're all in this human experience together. The whole human race has just gone through the same pandemic experience. All of us have experienced loss in some way, shape, or form in the last 3 years. And we are here to be that example and to lead and to guide in that there is a better way. Jacqueline said in Zoom, she is having strong self-discipline so she can prepare to get pregnant. But now I've been having thoughts of, well, I'm eating healthier. I should be losing weight. Why am I not losing weight? Who else has been there? That's very frustrating. I was there over 10 years ago when I started researching gut health and hormone health. And I was doing the same thing, Jacqueline. And it wasn't until I supplemented properly that I could be physically well enough to work emotionally on myself. And that's why we're doing both of these together. Because in this 30-day cleanse, you'll be supporting yourself physically with proper supplementation. You have guidance of 2 coaches. I mean, come on. And we're going to walk with you. We have weekly 60-minute Zooms where you get to be hot seat coached.
And you can be the one crying instead of me.
And we might all be crying together because we're all in this together. We want to create a strong network of people and create community that support and love. That it's judgment free. We're doing the same products with you. We're going to be the same journaling. So we're going to be walking the walk and talking the talk with you, because as coaches, like I've been there. I remember being a personal trainer, you guys. I was a personal trainer training for a half marathon, gaining weight. And I'll never forget, one of my clients turns to me one morning and she goes, I have a question for you. And I said, sure, yeah. And she goes, how are you supposed to teach me to lose weight when you can't do it yourself? And I was like, that took a lot of, that hurt, because how am I supposed to do that? Right. But I was doing what I thought was best according to the weight loss professionals that say to eat. So, and
restricting,
yeah. You know, we're all taught, eat less, exercise more. What that did for me is it burned out what I call my engine, wrecked my hormones. And I finally have all that back in line because there was proper supplementation. I learned how to exercise and listen to my body. And, you know, exercise is a great way to burn off extra energy.
What I've learned from Rachel is how the gut affects the emotions so much. And the purpose of a cleanse is to help get your gut flora in alignment so that bring yourself back to homeostasis, because a lot of us are walking around with candida, with parasites, with an unhealthy gut, which then is triggering our mental state. We all experience brain fog and anxiety and depression. A lot of these are triggered from the gut. We call the gut the second brain. And so maybe speak to that and what they'll experience through the 30 days with that piece.
Yeah. So I have studied gut health for a very long time. Before I even got into nursing school, I was in my prerequisites and I took my biology and general chemistry. My favorite classes of all time, and I like physiology and pathophysiology and learned about the physiology of disease. And the most fascinating thing about your digestive system, not just like your mouth, not your stomach, but your digestive system, your intestines. Your small intestine is where 90% of your serotonin is made. Serotonin, if you're low in serotonin, that's what we call depression. And if you're clinically diagnosed with depression, they're going to give you a medication that takes 6 to 8 weeks to start working. If it works, it may or may not. So I'm not saying stop your medication. Please don't do that.
Right.
Please don't do that. Because there are people that it works for. What I also know is when we do conjunction with Western medicine and natural solutions of infusing your gut with good probiotics, prebiotics, and cleansing out the candida, and yeast overgrowth, which is a candida, and killing off parasites, and balancing out your body with a really good multivitamin and mineral supplement, which we have for you in this cleanse. The bacteria in your gut, the healthy ones that have little receptors, like little beacons, like boop, 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 I can help you feel better. We want more of those and less of the ones that, as you start to weed out these foods that you're seeing are not helping you feel your best, they also have receptors. Like, I love the analogy I heard from a gastroenterologist. He said, you have gut bacteria that are like the brownie receptors, and you stop eating brownies, and all of a sudden these bacteria in your gut say, oh my gosh, I need brownies. Where are the brownies? Anybody else been here? I need brownies, or the popcorn and M&Ms, or the tortilla chips and salsa. And so we're going to help you during this cleanse to work through those moments where you feel like you're white knuckling it, but you don't have to do it alone. We can't do something like this alone. It is too hard because your brain is so smart and your brain is built to survive that you will eventually cave on yourself. And then it's a self-destructive cycle. Well, we want to help you build that confidence, because hopefully you can hear that we have walked this walk. We continue to walk this walk. We all have days like you guys on Sunday. I had a really stressful week last week. Sunday, I made yellow squash cookies. So think carrot cake, but with yellow squash. It had raisins. I cut the sugar in half because who needs all that sugar when you add raisins and a sweet squash? I had 6 of those and called it dinner.
It happens. Yep.
And I knew what I was doing because I'm aware, and I knew I was coping. There are times in our lives, you guys, when life just seems to blow up and the nervous system literally seems to go offline, and all you're left with is a toddler. This is like your emotional brain. This is your brainstem. This is keep me alive. This is I feel loved. I am safe. This is your frontal lobe, where it's like I can think logically. There are times in life when this literally flips offline, and all you're left with, I call it toddler with a Sharpie. That's your emotional brain. You're thinking with your emotions and not with your logic. We're going to teach you how to get it back online within minutes, so it doesn't turn into this binge fest and you're beating the crap out of yourself, and then you're a bloody pulp on the floor with your own weapons against yourself. So we're going to teach you how to bring all of this back online really quick so that you can have compassion and be like, I knew exactly what I did. I knew exactly what I was doing when I ate all those cookies. Then I fried yellow squash in some cool like masa flour thing, and I ate a bunch of that, and I knew exactly what I was doing because I knew I was coping.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do that.
But then Monday's a new day.
And Monday's a new day. Or even an hour later, I'm like, man, that was like the best dopamine hit ever.
Mm-hmm.
I am set. And then we just teach you how to get that back online so that you don't go completely off the rails.
So you don't repeat it on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. We're so excited to empower you with this. Like, our world needs this. You need this. You're here on this live. You're here on the Zoom because there's something here that you need, and we have it for you.
So hopefully some of the things that we've talked about are things that you can relate to, that maybe you hopping on today was just you creating awareness And you're going to walk away and you're going to be more aware of your habits, and you're going to be able to change from that by just that. But if you feel like you need more, you feel like you need some support, we're doing a 30-day cleanse. It's going to start officially on September 18th. And signups are going to go live today. We'll be both posting on our social media. And we'll do like a 7-day pre-cleanse, in the sense where we can get ourselves ready. We can, clean out the pantry a little bit. This is not like a sugar detox. This is not a caffeine detox. It's nothing like that. It literally is to help create better habits. And there is supplementation along the way. And so when you fill out the form, you'll get to see all of the products that are included. It has a multivitamin. It has some digestive enzymes. It has lemon oil for its cleansing benefits. So there's multiple products inside, as well as access to our app. We'll be going live like this once a week. And it'll be an opportunity for you to come on and be coached, ask your questions, but you'll have access to us in the app throughout the week. You can ask questions and message us at any time. And what I've noticed for me is, when I have accountability, when I have direction with nutrition and know what to eat and how to eat, and I have a plan to move my body, that I'm able to achieve my goals. And that's what we want to help you with, is having a plan in place to move, having some guidance with nutrition, and then that accountability piece and that community. You'll be able to rub shoulders with other people that are in the 30-day challenge as well. You'll have access to Rachel and I for some coaching, and just know that you're not alone. Like, you don't have to do this alone, and you're going to walk away with the tools and resources that you need after this 30 days to feel empowered, to feel in control again. So if you're feeling out of control, this might be the right time for you. Is there anything else you want to add to it?
If this feels like something that's the right time for you, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Like, we're going to post the link to apply. And we want you to apply because we want to kind of see what your health goals are. What are you looking to get out of it? And then we're going to have a one-to-one conversation. What do you want out of this? What are your deepest struggles? And one thing I want to point out is we're going to do a Zoom. So we're not going to go live on social media. We're going to do Zoom with those in the challenge, and to have that accountability piece, to provide emotional support going throughout this. And so the whole cleanse kit is all included. There is a product in there specifically called Zendocrine, and it's specifically designed to balance your endocrine hormone system. We're going to have, like Chelsea said, our vitamins that are going to be in there. Omega fatty acids are going to be there. Your gut health. I mean, you're going to have such well-rounded support that this is the perfect time of year to do something like this. Autumn time and springtime are the two best times of the year to do a cleanse like this. In autumn time, you're preparing your body for winter. In spring, you're waking your body back up for winter and preparing it for summer. So if you do have weight loss goals, we can help you with those. Also keep in mind of the natural seasons, and you may or may not lose weight, and that's okay. Maybe it's not the time for your body to do that. Maybe what your body needs is a reset, and to help it work through something else. Maybe you have diabetes you want help with, or an autoimmune condition, or we have Jacqueline that's preparing her body for pregnancy. The focus when we're preparing our body for pregnancy is creating a healthy environment where you are nourished so baby can be nourished. Your brain can't focus on pregnancy and weight loss at the same time. They're two metabolic processes that are totally different. If we're focusing on pregnancy, we focus on pregnancy and helping the body become healthy so you can nourish baby and you don't become nutrient depleted. If weight loss is the goal, we focus on weight loss. Now, maybe doctor, medical professional said you need to lose weight to get pregnant. So let's take that off the table and take the pressure off of that and focus on, let's create a balanced, healthy body environment where mom is nourished so that baby can be nourished. And if weight loss happens, fantastic. That is a great byproduct of you nourishing your body, balancing it out, because that's all weight loss is. All weight loss is you nourishing your body in the right way.
And someone said that menopause is kicking their butt. That's another space, is just creating a healthy environment for your body to naturally do what it's supposed to do. So the challenge is it's $2.99 for 30 days, and we'll go ahead and post a link to the questionnaire. You can get that filled out, and you'll have a one-to-one conversation with us before you make a commitment. But we really hope that anybody that feels like they need some extra support in this area, we're excited to be that support for you and cheer you along and join you in that 30 days. So have a good day, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.